Welcome to Chapter 5, Data Collection. Data collection enables teachers to measure their students' progress towards goal achievement. The next step following implementation in the decision-making process is progress monitoring. In this next chapter of the module, we discuss the importance of using data and why it is important to have a system to collect and to use it. First, the definition. When we monitor student progress, we're actually using a type of formative assessment to determine whether our instruction is moving the student forward. Regular probes of skills outlined in goals on the IEP provide data points. Graphing the data points give teachers a visual picture of whether the student is on track to meet their goal or if instruction needs to be changed to have a better result. Teachers need to set up a system to collect data individualized for each student that is easy to collect and analyze by all staff working with the student. Once teachers are collecting data regularly, they need to analyze student performance and use it to make decisions that will drive their instruction. Stephanie describes key points she has learned about progress monitoring and data.
Data collection is one of the most important components of my special education program. I progress monitor most of the goals every other week. Some goals, especially behavior goals, I progress monitor daily. So it depends on the goal when you're going to progress monitor. But you've got to make sure that that progress monitoring is driving your instruction. I have charts and graphs on every one of my students. Each one of my students has a file that I keep their data in, and I go back to those files, and that how they perform on their progress monitoring is what drives my instruction. It's important to have a schedule, to do it consistently, and to make sure that you are using that data. Now, progress monitoring, you need to use techniques that are proven, that are research-based. So if you're doing a reading goal, you need to use a progress monitoring system that supports that goal. And then you can look at the progress monitoring and use it to drive your instruction.
It's important to follow the schedule or how often the IEP states data will be collected. In addition, the data needs to be collected in the same manner each time. For example, if using an informal assessment or probe to monitor Donnie's progress on his goal for blending sounds to read CVC words, then the same probe should be used each time. If the data isn't collected the same way, it could skew the results. I plan on using the same word family probe used to measure his baseline data to track Donnie's progress. I can make multiple copies of this form, or I might use the same document for several bi-weekly trials and mark it with different colors of ink. Progress monitoring data allows us to compare whether a student is performing to the annual goal criteria and allows staff to identify patterns of progress or lack of progress. The data should be used to make instructional decisions based on the student's progress or lack of progress, which then leads to increased student achievement. For more information on data analysis and decision points, Module 5, Progress Monitoring from the Data-Driven Decision-Making series is a great resource. Robin will describe her system for data collection.
In my program, we collect data electronically, and my goal is always to go into the computer and look at data that's collected each week. From there, I'll determine if instruction needs to change based on whether or not the data shows that they are meeting their objectives based on their IEP goal.
Before selecting an online behavior tracking system and or using email to communicate student information, please check with your administrator and IT staff for policies regarding internet security and possible FERPA violations. Hard copies of progress monitoring systems may also be used and entered into the computer at a later time. This flowchart is one option for making decisions using progress monitoring data. Start by asking, does this data indicate that the student is making adequate progress to meet the goal? If yes, great, no changes are needed. If no, it should be considered if the instruction is being implemented with fidelity. In other words, are all components of the strategy being presented? Is the instruction occurring for the correct amount of time? If not, then the evidence-based practice should be reviewed and changes made to ensure that it is occurring with fidelity. If the instruction is occurring with fidelity, then consider whether or not the strategy or instruction is appropriate for the targeted skill. If it's not, then a different evidence-based practice should be identified. For Donnie, I might try the Linda strategy, for example. If yes, it's still the correct strategy but the student isn't moving forward, then the team may need to consider if the goal is appropriate, and if the team determines the goal is not appropriate for the student, then an amendment would need to be completed to adjust or change the goal. Any place teachers come to a no on this flowchart gives an idea for an instructional decision to quickly change directions. Examining teacher practices is a great place to start when students seem to be stuck. For more information on this topic, SESTA has created a series of modules on data-driven decision-making. These modules provide more in-depth information on progress monitoring, data collection, and writing data-driven IEP goals. They are located on the Idaho Training Clearinghouse at idahotc.com. Under the Resources tab, type Data Driven in the search box, and then click on the Resources folder icon on the right-hand side to get to the screen shown here. In this chapter, we focused on using data for progress monitoring. The next chapter, Chapter 6, is the last chapter in the elementary module. It covers collaboration with teachers, paras, and related service providers, and it summarizes the topics that we've covered in the module.